Golden Law Monday on a day after the playoffs are settled. Here we go. Been waiting on this for a long time. And now that I see it, I look at the brackets and think, I don't know. I don't know if this is what I expected or not. What did you expect? What did you think? There's some controversy as we knew there would be. We'll discuss that tonight. Shane Matthews will join us in a moment, get his take on a lot of things. A lot of activity tonight. The portal is open and already the names are starting to pop up everywhere. We'll talk about some of those. We'll have Scott Carter joining us in just a few minutes, get his take on things from Florida, where they continue to look good for the Gators. Vance Beard, Darren Duke is back. Glad to have him. And Kevin Brockway, busy night right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Melvin on Monday. Stay tuned. Tell your friends and neighbors. The Buddy Martin Show is now officially on the air.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Hey, good evening. Welcome. We're finally here to the end of the so-called regular and postseason as far as the playoffs go. As far as the bowl season goes, it's going to go on. And now we start with the real ball. We've waited for this and waited for this and waited for this. This is what we wanted. We thought, I guess it's what we wanted. The game has certainly improved, but there are a few little difficulties in there. I'd imagine that our QB himself probably would have a thought or two about that. And let's go talk to the host of Pot Up with Matthews, number 9, former Gator quarterback, Shane Matthews. Evening to you, Shane.
How you doing, buddy?
Well, what did you think, man? You saw it. We saw some great football in a couple of games, and we saw a little bit of a unfortunate situation. The committee had to pick between two games. What's your take on the whole thing? I didn't get a chance to hear your show this morning.
Look, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, you're going to have arguments about strength of schedule and this, that, and the other. It is what it is. I thought SMU was deserving to get in the way they played Clemson. It was a heck of a football game. Obviously, I thought Georgia just finds ways to win, buddy. They're like the Kansas City Chiefs. They have that DNA where they know how to win football games. Yep. Texas should have been ahead about 21-24 nothing at half, but they weren't. But with the 12-team playoff, it should be fun. I'm excited for it. I don't know what's right or wrong, but it is what it is, and sit back and enjoy.
Let's come back to the game that I think we were all kind of riveted to. I thought we all thought Texas would win the game. I think Sarkisian, he had problems. Guys couldn't catch the ball and issues, whatever, but his offense wasn't exactly stunning the first 3 quarters. And who knew a young quarterback come off the bench and save the day, so to speak. What an ending to an exciting game. Etienne gets to redeem somewhat for his situation with 2 touchdowns. The quarterback handing off had 1 arm left, and the quarterback running the game wasn't the one we thought. That was a really hell of a football game, Shane. You couldn't deny that, but they find a way to win, those dogs.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, Texas had over more than 200 and something yards than Georgia did in the first half, and it was 6-3.
Yeah.
They went up and down the field, just missed field goals, not scoring touchdowns. They let the game stay close when it could have been 24-0.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Georgia's a very good football team. Say what you want to say about Kirby. He gets his guys ready to play.
He does.
They play hard. They got a lot of good players. They find ways the ball bounces their way. That's what good teams do.
Yeah, for sure. I want to get back to the brackets here. It sounds funny, the brackets, and go through them and see what you like here. We still have problems with the seedings, the buys, etc. There got to be some things worked out, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. So, what about Gunnar Stockton, man? Did you know about? I didn't know who he was when he came.
Yeah, yeah. He's one of the highest recruited quarterbacks the year he came out. He broke all of Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence's records in the state of Georgia. I mean, he's played in a lot of big high school games, won a ton. They've had high hopes for him. He just hadn't had an opportunity to play, and he's a little more athletic than Carson Beck, and he lit a spark. And it wasn't. I think people forget sometimes they act like the backup quarterback does nothing at practice, right?
Right.
And then people are very amazed that when they go in and they play well. I mean, he prepared well. Give Mike Bobo credit. They called plays he was comfortable with. He didn't make a bunch of great throws. I mean, he just made some plays and was smart with the football.
He made a hell of a play on that last carry. And I tell you, I know, but technically the textbook, maybe it said it wasn't targeting, but if that's not targeting,
that wasn't targeting, buddy.
It looked to me like
he hit him with the side of his helmet and his shoulder pad.
You know what? He was a defenseless player at that point in time, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Now, by the rules, it looked to me like he was very vulnerable, defenseless. He got hammered in the head, could have caused a serious injury. That's just my take. It didn't matter. They came back in and got the first down, and ETN scored, and Carson Beck got to hand the ball off. So, but it was really a heck of a finish and a heck of a football game. Georgia now 9 overtimes in 2 games, of course, and it was really amazing. Let's talk about the transfer portal. It's open, Shane. I know you want them to go get a couple of seasoned veterans as receivers. What have you heard? What do you think? And what do you think's going on in the portal right now for Florida?
I really don't know, buddy. I mean, I'm sure they're contacting the same players everybody's contacting, right? I did just see that the so-called top player in the transfer portal is a wide receiver from Georgia Tech.
Right.
But his 3 choices, I don't know if it's 3 choices, but the 3 schools that want him are Ole Miss, Georgia, and Auburn. So I don't know. I trust our coaches to go find good players to help our team. I mean, I'm not going to lose it. If you sit there and worry about it, you're going to drive yourself nuts.
I know I put this up today on Twitter, and I know some people think, no. I think a guy they need to get is go get Creed Whittemore. He's in the portal, and people say, well, no, he's not the kind of guy they need. He doesn't fit their scheme and the 12 offense, the scheme. Look, he's talented. He's fast. He's a bright kid, and we know about his genes. I would like to see him give him a look, Billy, and bring him in and have a look at him at least.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I love Creed. I think he's a heck of a player. I think he's going to go somewhere where he can catch a bunch of balls.
Could be. Like to see him catch some for Florida. All right, Shane, let's talk a little bit before we come back to this whole deal with the brackets, and maybe you can help me pick these games and these brackets. Sounds funny. It's what we got here. But I want to mention, hey, your boy Scotty Scheffler, hey, he came out after 2 months firing. What a game! What a tournament he had, and a hero, and it was very, very impressive. That guy's a machine.
He's the best ball striker in the history of the game. I mean, you can't debate it.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to watch golf and that played like that high level. And boy, it looks like he's poised to have a great year. All right, so basketball. The good news there. Team is rated high. They're in 9th in the AP poll. Basketball team is highest ranking in a decade. Number 7 in the coaches poll. This is the first top 10 ranking for Florida this decade, they say. So looks like the basketball team now 9-0 is making some noise. What do you think, Shane?
Well, they're one of the few that are still undefeated. I think they play Arizona State in Atlanta Saturday, which should be a good test, but they'll probably win it. Look, they're very talented, and they can make a deep run. I think the SEC is clearly the best team in all of college basketball. I think 12, 13 teams will make the tournament.
They sure won the ACC challenge, didn't they?
Yeah, they destroyed
Yeah,
the ACC.
Yeah. Switching back and forth, and I would like to wait till Scott gets here and do some picking on these brackets, but I want to talk a little about the fact there is some good news. Caleb Banks coming back now. That's a biggie. I think he is a real key piece for them. That's good news there. And then Trakeezy Bridges says he will play in the Gasparilla Bowl. Most all the kids will play in the Gasparilla Bowl, I guess. How do you feel about the Gasparilla Bowl, Shane?
Well, once Alabama got left out, I figured all the talk about us going to the Gator Bowl, and then there was people talking about us going to the Outback or like ReliaQuest, whatever it's called now. I couldn't figure that out because our record did not correspond to that bowl game or the Gator Bowl. But it was all assuming Alabama made the playoffs. Once Alabama made the playoffs, I knew we were going to go to one of the lesser tier bowls. And, it's in Tampa. Tulane's starting quarterback and backup quarterback are both in the transfer portal. So I guess we'll see their third string quarterback.
Their coach is staying, though. That was
I think so.
He said tonight there's definitely redid his deal. So he's staying. All right. I want to say a word about Jake Slaughter. This guy is in a phenomenal year. If you look at his grades, how he graded out. That first team all SEC. You think he'll come out or play another season? What's your opinion about that?
I think he'll get his information from the NFL. If he's not going to be a first or second rounder, I would come back because I'm sure they'll give him a ton of money. Look, I talked to a college coach at the FCS level today who is losing tons of his players to FBS schools because of money.
Right.
But he's done a great job recruiting players that bigger schools won't. But he's like, I'm going to lose half my roster that I've recruited because they can't pay these guys, $100,000 to $150,000 to go be backups in the FBS. And so to answer your question, I think Jake Slaughter comes back.
Okay. That would be really big for them to do that. That would be really big. And they got making some a heck of a good football team for next year if things come together as we think they will now that the QB is playing so great and he's bringing it together. I think they want to come play with him. By the way, Badger and will also play in the Gasparilla Bowl against Tulane. I remember they played in the SEC, Shane. So had a nice year. So that's good to say. Let me ask you a question about this. If you voted in the Heisman Trophy, which one of these would you have voted for? Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward, Ashton Jeanty, or Travis Hunter?
Well, it's tough. I was thinking about it today. I watched Ashton Jeanty play, and I've seen him play this year, but not like I watched him the other night. If you put Travis Hunter on Boise State's team, I don't think he makes that big a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see.
I think Ashton Jeanty's. I mean, what he's doing, he's going to break Barry Sanders' record probably.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal. And I know people say, what conference? Look, that's not his fault. I mean, he ran all over the Oregon Ducks. I would lean Ashton Jeanty.
Okay. I can't say because I'm a voter. I'll just say I voted for 3 of these 4. The one guy I didn't vote for is the guy that, I'd say I did not vote for Cam Ward. I might have, but his season didn't end well. But those are my 3. I can't say what order, and we'll see how it turns out and see what it means. let's go real quick over to the hotline and see if this guy is working tonight. He usually is. Our good friend, he's on your show a lot and on mine. Good source of information. But this is Scott Carter. Good evening, Scott. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, fellas. How you doing, man? Monday night in Gainesville.
All right. Well, what a weekend, huh? Football was good, but it was crazy. What stuck out to you about the weekend game, Scott?
Well, I mean, the Clemson game, obviously, it kind of impacted, I think, some of the bowl games. Obviously, I didn't mind it with Alabama missing the playoffs. I mean, I'm kind of tired of Alabama. So unless you're from Alabama, you probably don't mind seeing, although Clemson, we've seen them a lot in the playoffs too, obviously. But, I like when first of all, it was a really good game. It came down to a field goal at the end. So, but Clemson sneaking in there, sending Alabama to really a Quest Bowl instead of the playoff. I think that had a cumulative effect, impacted maybe the Gators some. I know that bowl really wanted Florida. I know they were in the running for the Gator Bowl, but then the Gator Bowl took Ole Miss. So, we'll play Tulane in the Gasparilla Bowl. But I think the thing that stuck out to me the most, guys. I mean, I'm just excited about what we're getting ready to see. I mean, I'm genuinely excited to see these on-campus playoff games. And I can, I've already seen what these tickets are going for. It's like, I mean, people really want to see these games, and so it's just going to be fun. We get one on Friday night, like the Friday after next, Indiana and Notre Dame. Who expected that playoff game?
Really, in the state of Indiana, that's a big game too, right there. So, yeah, Scott, I think you've seen the seedings and you've seen how it turned out. We know the controversy involving Alabama and SMU, etc. First of all, which one do you come down on the side of? I guess you just said it before. You think you were tired of Alabama, but there is this perception that when you play in the best league in America and you have to play a quality opponent every week, and you don't ever get a break, it seems like, even when you go to national like Vanderbilt, that it's tougher than a team who doesn't play any ranked teams. That's not fair. What do you come down on this thing?
I get that argument, and it's true. When you're in the SEC, a 3-loss SEC team should not be automatically ruled out of the playoff. But at the same time, I think SMU is deserving. They had a pretty good season. I know they lost to Clemson, but it came right down to the wire. So I didn't have a problem with it personally. I think it's going to be a case by case. I do think that what happened in all the discussions since, I do think they could probably revisit maybe the formula. But again, it's not like the NFL where there's these tiebreakers and there's rules and there are guidelines. This is still a subjective process. I don't know if college football will ever get everybody on the same page to have a system like the NFL, because it's such a regional sport. All these schools have entirely different cultures and football interests. I mean, SMU obviously is in the playoff, but if you go down to one of their games in the regular season, it's going to be nothing like a typical Saturday in the SEC. So it's just the sport. But I've always been one. I kind of like the controversy. I mean, I think it's good. I really do. Now, if I was an Alabama fan, I might have a different opinion tonight.
Shane, do you like the buys? Do you think the call the conference championship should be automatically in? Does that need tinkering, Shane?
No, I'm a big believer in the conference champ getting in the game playoffs. I think because that means you're trying to win your conference, and every game means something. So I think they should automatically get a bid. I'm sure there's going to be some tweaks. Look, nobody's going to be happy. FCS has 24 teams every year. I know some teams that got left out due to some pushing from people on the committees that chose those teams due to the ADs or whatever. So there's never going to be a perfect scenario. Somebody is always going to be pissed off about it. Alabama's upset. I think South Carolina and Ole Miss have reasons to be upset also. So And then when they go to 16, 17, and 18, you're going to be upset.
They're always going to be, aren't they?
Yes, there's always going to be somebody. So it will never be like the NFL, because the NFL, you have your divisions and you know who you're playing. And the schedules, it doesn't – the NFL, anybody can beat anybody. I don't care what – you could be 1-14, and it's going to be a grind to win that football game. So do more teams put cupcakes on their schedule moving forward? I don't know.
Yeah, that's it, Shane, right there. And also, Scott, I mean, if I'm the ADs, I'm already looking at my schedule for my opponents. I don't want to be playing those. What if they play 9 SEC games, you know? And it is a formula that obviously works against you. And the one thing is that when you don't take into consideration the strength of the schedule, it throws it out of whack. At the same time, I had a different model in mind when I envisioned this a long time ago. And I didn't foresee the conferences changing like they have. I mean, Oregon playing in the Big Ten. I mean, come on. It's hard to know exactly what the conference is because they're all different. But I guess good football is good football. Auburn, you got Oregon, you got to give it up for. Dylan Gabriel had a great year. And to go undefeated in any time is difficult, and hats off to them. I think they might be the best team in the bunch. I'm not sure if I'm going to pick them, but what do you guys say? Oregon the best?
I mean,
they're very good. I think they're well coached. I think Dylan Gabriel has played like 60-something games in college football, which is unbelievable. I mean, he's been playing forever. They're explosive offensively, but not vertically. If you watch them play, they do a lot of horizontal stuff. Dylan Gabriel knows where to go with the football. He's extremely accurate, and he gets the ball in playmakers' hands in space, and they're so fast. They got a track team, right? So I want to see them play Georgia. I think they're going to end up playing Georgia because I think Georgia's defense can cause them problems. But wouldn't that be something, Dan Lanning against Kirby Smart for the national title?
Yeah. Scott, what do you think?
yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what Shane just said. I mean, to me, they're 13-0, so I do think they deserve their spot in the playoff, their seeding. I'll be curious to see the thing that, whenever I think of Oregon and some of the West Coast teams, even though I know they're in the Big Ten now, you wonder how they'll match up against some SEC offenses with those more physical offensive lines, maybe than they're used to seeing defensively. But they've been through it with playing some really good teams in the Big Ten. So I can see why people see them as the favorite. I really can. But it will not surprise me again, like kind of just going along what Shane said. I mean, if Georgia were to play Oregon for the title, I'd probably go with Georgia just because of their defense and their physicality. Although I know this is maybe the same Georgia team as the last few years, and I'm still not sure what the quarterback situation is going to be.
Yeah, you don't know who they're going to have there.
Yeah, so if they're missing their quarterback and they're having to go with the kid who played the other night, I might lean toward Oregon. But hey, man, like I said, I think we're all in for some really good games. There's going to be some surprises, and when you look at those 12 teams, I mean, I don't really think Clemson probably has a chance to win it all. Maybe, Indiana, I don't see them winning it all. But about 8 or 9 teams, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the championship game.
All right, let's go down that list right now. I'm looking at the brackets. It feels kind of funny to be doing brackets right now, but I like it. We know about the byes. Oregon gets one. Arizona State, we didn't see that coming. Gets one. Georgia gets one as they should. And here's the sleeper, Boise State. Wow. I mean, they're a good little football team. I'm not taking nothing, but we didn't see that coming at 12, 13 weeks ago. Let's talk about the opening games. Ohio State, Tennessee. That's interesting. Things are a mess for people in Columbus, what's going on there. And Tennessee is playing better. I don't know the line here. It's 8-9. Shane, who you like in that game?
Ohio State's done nothing to impress me at all year long. I mean, they played Oregon okay out in Oregon. They lost, by 3 or something like that. If Nico can just complete a few balls, which he did against Vandy, I think Tennessee is as athletic as anybody and can cause problems for Ohio State. Ohio State, just like I said, they've done nothing to impress me this year.
So you're taking Tennessee?
Yeah. Now, I mean,
Right.
Tennessee used to cold weather, but I don't know what the weather forecast is going to be in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be a blizzard for all we know.
Yeah.
But I like Tennessee's run game.
Yeah, they're really good at running. So you're taking Tennessee?
I'm taking the Vols.
All right, to play Oregon and Scott, I bet you.
I'm taking the Vols too. I kind of when that seeding came out, I was curious. To me, Tennessee could have easily been the home team in that matchup, as well as Ohio State. But I like Tennessee. I think we saw Texas go up and hammer Michigan this year. I won't be surprised if Tennessee goes up there. Maybe not beat them as definitively as Texas defeated Michigan, but I won't be surprised at all if the Vols go up there and win. So I'm going with Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay. Texas, Clemson, the winner plays Arizona State. Scott, you go first on this one.
All right, you go first, Scott.
Yeah,
all right. Texas and Clemson. I like Texas at home. I think I like their offense against Clemson's defense, and I think Clemson may be one of those teams that their highlight is going to be winning that game the other night against SMU. I just think Texas at home, that place is going to be jacked up. Their first year in the SEC, their first home playoff game, and I think Texas has the team that can win it all. They didn't play particularly well the other night in the red zone, obviously, against Georgia, but they moved the ball pretty decisively. So I think if they find the end zone a couple more times, they would have won that game, obviously. But I like Texas.
Shane?
I like the Longhorns at home. I think they're going to be really upset. What's interesting about Clemson? They don't have any transfers at all on their team.
Yeah.
A lot of people. I think it's kind of a cool story in today's world. People can say what they want to say about Dabo, but for them to win the ACC and be in the playoffs with it, I mean, they got as good a chance as anybody to win the national title. And if they were to do it or even advance with none of this transfer portal nonsense, be something good to write about if you were on the ClemsonTigers.com, right, Scott?
Yeah,
that's right. A lot of stories out of that.
Yeah. Shane, one of the biggest games ever played in the state of Indiana, Notre Dame and Indiana. Who saw that coming? Winner plays Georgia.
Yeah, I'd be curious if these two teams have ever played each other.
Well, I'm sure they have, but I haven't got it in front of me.
It's been a long time, I think, but they have. But it's not a series that obviously happens very often.
Yeah, Notre Dame has just kind of lulled people to sleep after that loss against Northern Illinois, and I'm sure it's going to be a pricey ticket since the Hoosiers are coming there.
Yeah.
I don't see how they can beat Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to have too many athletes and be too physical for them.
Scott?
Same. I like Notre Dame, and I think Kurt Signetti? Is that how you pronounce it? The Indiana coach. I mean, to me, he's doing a great job at Indiana. To have that program in the playoffs is pretty amazing in my book.
Right.
But I just see that being Notre Dame's game. I think they'll just bruise them up and fight an Irish. I think they're a really good team.
All right. We're going to jump in here and I'm going to go back. We got our guys like Tennessee over Ohio State. We like Texas over Clemson. And we like Notre Dame over Indiana so far. We'll let Scott play along with this one. Penn State, SMU. SMU's got a nice little football team. The winner playing Boise State. Shane, you go first.
SMU's playing Penn State, correct?
Yes.
Boy, I really thought Penn State was going to beat Oregon. I picked them to beat Oregon. Now, they scored a lot of points on them. James Franklin, whatever you want to say about him, can't win any big games.
He can't.
I think SMU is going to be too fast for Penn State. I know that sounds silly, and I may look like an idiot. I'm going to take the Ponies in the upset in
right.
Happy Valley.
All right. Scott Carter, your thought on this game when they're playing NC State?
I'm finally going to get Shane. Or Penn State's they don't excite me a lot, but I thought they played one of their best games of the season against Oregon, although they lost. I wasn't even for sure they were going to be able to hang with Oregon, and I think that really showed me, okay, this team's better than maybe I thought. I think the difference is going to be at home with that crowd up there. They're going to be into that playoff atmosphere, and I could see SMU keeping it close, but I think James Franklin finally wins a big game to advance. I don't think their stay is going to be past this round, but I do think they're going to get past this first round.
All right, we're going to bring this guy in, but first we're going to tell you about Meldon Law. You got to know about him if you don't. The official law partner, Indy Law firm for the University of Florida. Jeffrey is well known for his participation in the Gator program. They will do a great job for you. I can tell you firsthand. I've obtained their services. They're thorough. They take care of you, and they want to make sure that you understand what you're getting into and why it works and why it might not. Meldon Law is also a huge supporter of the University of Florida sports. If you haven't got tickets to gymnastics or basketball, I suggest you go to their website. And they give away stuff all the time. They gave away a trip last week, and Jeffrey, of course, is known for his participation. Big supporter of the band, providing vehicles for the band. So check them out. They won't back down. Meldon Law. France Beer, good evening. Let's get you started. Catch up on these first three games. These guys have picked them real quick. Ohio State or Tennessee, France?
Do you know something? I get this strange feeling that Tennessee's going to win this game. I don't like Tennessee as a team. I think they're overrated, but I like the fact that they can stuff the run on Ohio State.
All you got to say. Yeah, just pick one you like. Yeah, all right, good. Say it. Texas, Clemson, and these guys both pick Texas.
I'll make it make it all three of us.
All right. Notre Dame, Indiana. Do the Hoosiers have a chance here?
Chance, but they're going to lose.
Penn State, SMU.
I kind of agree with Shane. The only thing I question is, can they handle the cold? Because may be snowy up there, and that would tend to be Penn State kind of weather.
Yeah. Well, there you have the picks, folks, and we get to the next round. We'll talk about that as we progress next week. Oregon, Arizona State, Georgia, and Boise State getting a little bye there. Which is, I asked these guys. You saw the picks. You heard about the controversy. You heard the SMU versus Alabama. France, what's your take on that? Did the SEC get hosed on that?
If you're going by record, no. If you're going by who's the better team, Alabama's a better team than SMU. Alabama would beat SMU. Ole Miss would beat SMU. South Carolina would beat SMU. They're 3-loss teams, but that's the problem. It's a 3-loss team, and the only reason Clemson's in as a 3-loss team is because they won their conference.
All right, there you go. All right, so I'm going to let Shane go get his milk and cookies. Scott, if you hang around for a second, talk a little hoop with us. Thanks, Shane. Who you got on tomorrow morning, Shane?
Some guy named Buddy Martin, and we're going to have Blake Alderman from 24/7 Sports talk about everybody's favorite subject, the transfer portal.
Well, yeah, there's a lot going on in that. Today was the first day. It's open, and things are starting to hop. So things can change. Really. All right, Shane. See you tomorrow morning.
Y'all take care, fellas.
All right.
Good night.
All right, thanks. Let's go right into hoop. Today the rankings came out. France and Scott. Gators moving up the line, number 9 in the AP, 7 in the coaches poll. This team looked awfully good last time out. They dominated in the ACC, the SEC, dominated the ACC. This team has not yet reached its peak. What do you think of that ranking, Franz, and how good can this team be?
I think it's a fair ranking. The Gators are good enough to beat anybody, and they've got the depth on the inside to really, and that's where it's going to be all year. Is they can overpower people inside, and if you have to respect that inside game, it's going to leave guys like Elijah Martin, like Will Richard, like uh, Walter Clayton Jr., even Denzel Aberdeen open on the end on the outside, and they're going to hit 3-point shots. I like Florida. 4 of the top 8 teams, I believe, or maybe it's 5 of the top 8 teams in the rankings. Yeah, it's 5 out of 8 are SEC teams. And the SEC won 14 out of 16 against the ACC. Did either of you guys ever think in your wildest dreams the day would come that the SEC would take the vaunted ACC basketball to the cleaners like that?
I didn't.
No,
Scott?
no, and I'm sure guys like Dean Smith and Lefty Drizel and Terry Holland, none of those guys ever thought it'd happen either. But
they're rolling over in their graves.
That's right. Things have changed, and the SEC has invested a lot of money in good coaches, in good programs, and in today's age, let's face it, good players, and they're getting the results. And for Florida specifically, I mean, I'm going off what Fran says. I mean, he hit a lot of points on the head. I mean, this is a deep team. They can win the way that I think the game is more set up today. It's more of an outside shooters game, and they have those kind of players. And as I said last week when we talked, and I've become just a huge Elijah Martin fan. I thought when they lost Zion Pullen last year, I thought, man, that guy, they'll never get another transfer that was that good, like instantly. Well, I think they got one a year later. So Todd Golden obviously knows what he's doing in the transfer portal.
Well, they are a really big team. We know they're demons on the glass. Their offensive rebounding is as good as you want to see anywhere. And they're a 3-guard offense, and those guards are all really good. When they're not even shooting that well or playing that well yet. France, they're not even close to reaching their potential yet.
No, and they're going to pick up some help here. The kid from Slovenia, Klavjar, once he really starts understanding the defense, his shooting will be phenomenal. Right now, he is so concerned about his defensive skills, which are lacking, but he's learning fast. But he's so concerned about his defensive skills that it shows on the offensive end. He's not making shots, but he is potentially the best shooter on the team in games. But he's got to get through that mental block. And guys who focus on one thing that they're doing poorly tend to forget something that they do well. And that tends to be a problem throughout basketball. Denzel Aberdeen, far better. I'll tell you what, he has been a real surprise at how well he is playing. He's more aggressive. I asked him, I ran into him in the parking lot at the O-Dome the other day, and I just asked him, I said, what's the difference now? And he says, I'm more aggressive. He says, the coaches have encouraged me to be aggressive. And he says, stuff's working because of it. And you throw that in, and here's the 2 guys that really, really do it for me. And that's coming off the bench with Sam Alexis and Thomas Hawk. Well, and I got to tell you what, you get guys that come in with that kind of energy and play that well. Mm-hmm. You can go a long way when you got guys like Condon and Giniello up front. So I like this team a lot. I think Kevin Brockway likes this team a lot, which is saying something because Kevin is from New York and he spent time in Indiana, so he knows his hoops.
Franz, I love you, but I got to challenge you on something. Klavjar, Walter Clayton Jr. had 93 threes last year. Until he shows me something like that, I'm going to defer to Walter Clayton as being the best shooter, just in terms of pure volume. And I love, and I just love his demeanor and what he's doing this year too. I think he's been a really nice leader and obviously producing 27 and 4 assists in that game against Virginia. He's the engine that's making everything go. And I think he's adapted to the point guard position a lot better this year than I thought he would. He's
you and me both.
keeping the turnovers. He's keeping the turnovers manageable. He's not going to be Zion Pullen, but he hasn't had those really loud turnover games that he had last year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They got so much talent on that team, and it's fun to watch. Who's your favorite player?
I'd have to say Clayton. Alex Condon also.
I love Condon. I think Condon's amazing. He plays so hard. He is really a fierce rebounder. He handles well for a big man. He's inspirational. He inspires others around him. I think he might be the most underrated player on that squad. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, he's definitely doesn't get the pub that some of the other guys do, but he's your classic glue guy. I think all good teams have to have a guy like Condon who just goes in and does whatever has to be done and doesn't care about what his stats are going to look like. But yeah, I'm a big fan. They would be a lot different team, I think, without him.
Yeah. What do you think, Kevin?
When we were down in Orlando, I was sitting by a scout for the Phoenix Suns, and he says Condon is going head to head with Efton Reed, who at one point in time was the number one high school center in America. And he asked me, he said, "What do you think about these two guys?" I said, "Well, Alex Condon is 6'11", and in 2 years he's going to be a superstar. Efton Reed is 7'1", and in 2 years he's going to be 7'1". And the guy just laughed and he said, "You're absolutely correct with that." He said,
"Yeah." And I think where Condon showed a lot of growth too is on defense in his sophomore year. He's getting out there, he's guarding people, he's handling the switches a lot better than he did last year. And he's 6'11", he's a rangy guy. And I think, Will Richard and Clayton too, I think they've got him to buy into playing better defense. If you look at the KenPom numbers right now, they're number 5 in adjusted offensive efficiency, but 29 in defense. Now, they face some offensively challenged teams. They faced FSU, they faced Wake Forest, they faced Virginia Tech. And one thing I'm writing tomorrow is about how the true test is going to come in January when they have that brutal stretch to start SEC play. They've got number 5 Kentucky, number 1 Tennessee here, which will be an electric atmosphere in Arkansas. Even North Carolina, you look at where they are right now, 5-4. They lost Alabama by 15. Buddy, the SEC is just going to be a battle royale this year. It's going to be a behemoth. There's 12 in the net, top 50. Yeah. It's going to be a highly unforgiving league. And I think we'll find out. I think based on the eye test, I see this as a Sweet 16 Elite 8 team, but we'll find out if it's an elite Final Four caliber team, once they get through that SEC schedule.
For sure. I want to talk about the skeleton in the closet. I don't want to be a downer here, but it's something we can't avoid. I'm going to tell you first about Titan MRI and come back and we'll talk about Todd Golden's, his crucible he's got to face and how tough that is. Titan MRI now is Titan MRI and imaging. Titan MRI is now Titan MRI and imaging. They've acquired high field MRI. Joe Colorea started high field MRI in 1997. Now he's back. Titan MRI and imaging now has 3 locations, 2 in Gainesville with this Park Avenue location now with the Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta, Georgia. And then here's the thing. Titan MRI will soon be in Ocala for people in Marion County. Titan MRI offers same great customer service. They now accept insurance, and through their convenient self-pay options, they will be able to handle your needs. Titan MRI, check them out. They're getting bigger and better all the time. All right, look, everybody seems has the cross to bear, a crucible. Billy Napier's had his a different way. Todd Golden's got a bigger one. It's not one we can talk about because we don't know really what's going on. And we can't comment on what the status is legally, but it is something he has to live with, the burden he has to carry with him. The question is, will it surface? The cool thing about the football team is, despite all the issues they didn't have anything like this, they were able to hang together. This basketball team now has great potential. It could be a Final Four team. Who knows? So the question is, can they carry themselves well enough to get through this? I know this is pure conjecture, and we're just talking basically somewhat in a predictive manner. Let's start with Kevin. Kevin, what do you think? Can this team hang in there with this coaching situation?
Well, I think they've done a good job so far, because let's not forget, I mean, this story surfaced the first week in November, and it is an investigation right now, buddy. And it has, to my knowledge, not concluded yet. So until that point, I mean, it's really hard to judge either way whether the accusations are true or not. So I think I would probably best leave it at that at this point. And, when it does get resolved, then we'll see, what the repercussions are.
It's hard to talk about, but we can't ignore it. And I'm not going to make an issue of bringing it up every night or every week, but it is an issue because this team could be so good, Scott, if they can get past this issue.
Yeah, I mean, there is going to be some resolution to this eventually. I don't know when or what that's going to look like, but having been around sports most of my life and college sports the last 15, 20 years, I think sometimes we in the media overstate how much these kind of things affect players and kids. It just seems like the personal stuff, yeah, it affects Todd Golden for sure and his family, but I don't think the players stay up late worrying about this. And however it comes down, they'll have to deal with it. But I just think right now, while this investigation is going on and people are wondering what's going to happen, I just don't think the guys are glued into it and really paying much attention to it. Now, and when it comes down, they'll deal with it like everyone else will have to and see what it means. But that's just kind of how I feel. Just over the years, you see all these things that happen with different coaches and different controversies or whatever. And these kids are pretty resilient, it seems like to me.
Brad, you've been around them a lot. What's your take?
I have to believe that right now the odds are favorable for him, simply because the complaint wasn't filed until September. So we don't know how much earlier before the complaint was filed that all this stuff started surfacing. That part we don't know. But the complaint wasn't filed until September. I believe that you have to have due process, certainly. But if there were the actual photos that are claimed here, then certainly I think he would already be gone. The fact that they aren't doesn't mean the investigation is over, but I would think a lot of the hard evidence isn't there. I kind of have to believe that the time that it's taken so far, because here we are, September, October, November, we're going into month 4, and we don't even know how long this stuff happened prior to the complaint being filed. I just have to believe it's favorable for him at least to make it through the end of this year. It may surface up afterward and be the end of it all, but I would think that right now the timing seems to favor that he'll make it through the end of this year.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And I think it's about all we can say about that. Let's go back to football for the final segment and talk about how the table is set up for this football team. Truly one of the great stories we've covered in a long time, friends, about with a team that was given up for dead, and we were among those. Raise your hand if you said he was a dead man walking. I did. And your column today, France, you talked about that, how we kind of realized, well, hey, look, show me the evidence. And suddenly it came out of nowhere. And you had a really good column on this, Scott. I was trying to narrow this down earlier in the week, and you were corrected me on one thing. I thought the open date he was talking about was the one that happened, the second open date. And you wrote a column about it and what the team seemed to rally around. It was indeed, was it the week of the Tennessee game, Scott? Is that what it was? After UCF?
It was the week after the Mississippi State game.
Okay.
And then they played UCF next, right? I don't have my schedule right in front
Yeah.
of me. It was the week before the UCF game, and Billy's talked a lot about that Wednesday practice of that week specifically. Yes.
Yeah. What happened there? Does anybody know?
I mean, the way they've explained it to the media or to us, and just talking to some people there in the building. I mean, it's just they really got physical in a way they hadn't been doing, and I think it became more of an open competition. Like every job's on the line this week, guys. If you look back at the players who played the first 4 games and what happened after that, there were a lot of players who suddenly started showing up regularly, and some others who kind of faded out. So I mean, it's pretty easy to tell what happened. They started playing the guys who were earning it in practice instead of, and I think it's mostly like that, but I think everything just rebooted that week because they were in such a precarious position.
Kevin, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we saw it. And, the biggest change and evolution, I think, from this team from September to now is on the line of scrimmage, both lines of scrimmage. I think it's, who would have thought that this team would end the season with it was in their last 3 games, a combined 18 sacks. I mean, you would have never thought that, watching this team in September, how they're getting after the quarterback, the protection of the quarterback too. The last 2 months of the season. I mean, it was just a different team compared to what you saw in September. What you saw a team in September was a team that was getting beaten up on the line of scrimmage a lot. And that speaks to the, physicality that Scott was talking about in practice. I think that that's been the biggest evolution that I've seen from this team from September until, and obviously, the emergence of DJ Lagway, but the line of scrimmage play, it looks more like an SEC line of scrimmage now than it ever has.
Friends alike just went on for a lot of players, seemed like.
Well, I think Scott hit the nail on the head. A lot of guys that we saw in those first 4 ball games suddenly weren't playing. And a lot of guys that, all of a sudden Jack Pyburn comes, Jack Pyburn becomes, like almost the Energizer Bunny on the team, the way that he just gets after people. Great guy in the interview room. Oh my gosh, what a great guy he is! I mean, interviews don't get better than Jack Pyburn, but you look at and he's key in one respect. The energy he played with, I think, rubbed off on everybody because these guys seem to be feeding off each other. I know that's too misused term, but it seems that these guys are just doing it like that. 18 sacks, Kevin pointed out. They only had 20 all last year, and they got 18 in 3 games.
If you remember too with Pyburn, Franz, I mean, he first showed it kind of in the Mississippi State game, and he was the one that after the bye week really made that almost like that Tebow-like guarantee. You're going to see a different defense in October. And for the most part, other than the Texas game, which was a little bit of a mulligan because you're playing a 3rd-string quarterback that had 2 interceptions and they had 21 points off turnovers, you saw a different defense for most of the last 2 months of the season.
Scott, you had a tweet about it, I think, this past week of Pyburn that impressed you quite a bit.
Yeah, I think I was just, pointing out that if you asked me at the start of the season if Jack Pyburn would even be in contention for, best reserve of the year, I would have probably said no. But I think we can make a case that he might be the defensive MVP just because of, you look at his stats, he's got 60 tackles, I think. So he's producing, but he's also just like the guys just said, he's brought up the energy. He funnels a lot of plays to the guys on the inside where they're making plays. And I don't think it really didn't stand out to me until he started getting in there. How kind of, what's the word?
I can play.
They just didn't have any real swagger, as we all like to say. They didn't have any defensive swagger those first 4 games, and at least he brought some of that. And I think other guys did kind of feed off of that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. Last thing, we've had some changes. I don't think of all the changes made in the coaching world would ever think Scott Frost is going back to UCF. How shocking was that? Was that a good decision? And what did you think when you heard it? Start, Kevin, with you.
Well, it's interesting because, and Scott knows this. We go to the College World Series every year in Nebraska, and we heard a lot of rumblings about Scott Frost in Nebraska and some of the problems that he had up there. So I think for him to come back to UCF and come back home where, maybe not as much pressure because he was brought in there as a savior and it didn't quite work out. He can come in here and kind of build and, obviously low expectations with the way things ended with Gus Malzahn. He could just kind of start over here and resurrect something. He gets a second chance at a place where he's familiar and maybe not as much of a pressure or even a fishbowl as it is in Lincoln. Orlando's, it's not really a college town. It's a big city. I think, that might suit him better. And I think he had a good line, right, where he said that, when you climb the ladder of success, sometimes you don't take into account happiness. And it seems like he's happy back in Orlando.
Yeah, that was a good line. Very good line. France, is it the right UCF? I don't know.
I got to lean in favor of UCF on this one. Scott Frost took over an 0-12 team and goes 6-7 in year one in 2016. Goes 46-0 and wins 12 national championships the next year when everybody is bowing down and saying, well, that's the greatest team ever assembled. I'm being a little bit facetious, wouldn't you say? But look at what he did, and he starts a true freshman quarterback that he found in Hawaii named Mackenzie Milton in 2016. And I was there at that game with South Florida in 2017. And it's one of the 5 best college football games I've ever been to. And that offense was unbelievable. It's got to be a better move for UCF because he is the guy that nobody associates Gus Malzahn with UCF success. Everybody associates Scott Frost with UCF success. So it's got to put a buzz through their community.
Hey, bring his mythical championship back, Scott, to,
That's right.
Again, right?
That's right. Maybe shine that baby up and see if you can bring some of the glory back. But, I agree with totally what Kevin and Fran said. I think it's a good move on both sides. And I watched that press conference, and the thing that struck me the most, besides that line you guys mentioned, he just looked very at peace with where he is now. And, I got to believe there's some value in that when you've been the hot coach, you've gone through the successful side of it, and then you go through the ringer at your alma mater, it doesn't work out, and then you get some time away from it. I bet you he's sleeping right now pretty good. And, he said the program he always looked at it like it's still in its infancy. It might still be a toddler in some ways, but he still feels it can grow. And I kind of agree with that. I think UCF, I just remember when I was a kid growing up in Orlando, going to UCF games at the Citrus Bowl. I mean, you could sit anywhere you wanted. There was the Sentinel maybe had something on the inside. It was all Gators and FSU. Nobody cared about UCF, and they do a lot more now. And so I think it's a good move. And, we've seen these coaches coming back to places. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I was thinking about that yesterday. Like, I remember, didn't John Robinson went back to USC?
Yeah.
And he had some success, but Bill Walsh went back to Stanford. Didn't really work out that great. Of course, Norm Sloan at Florida basketball. You guys know about that one.
Yeah. And almost Spurrier.
Yeah. So, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm kind of betting on this one that it is going to work.
I wonder if the Ocala Star-Banner would take me back.
Never know, man. Send in your resume.
They run Kevin Brockway stuff now. They don't need me, so I'm bad say. Hey, guys, it's been interesting. It's been a good week. I really like the level of football they're playing. I hope the playoffs can live up to what we hope they will be. It's kind of bizarre how we got here, but in the end, if the game is better, the games are better, and they improve the system, which I think it'll be better for all concerned. Thanks for a great job. I love you, Kevin, Fran, Scott. Appreciate you very much, guys.
Thanks.
No problem. Anytime, buddy.
All right, guys. Thank you. There's the trio right there. Always good to have those guys on the talk ball. I want to be sure and remind you that tomorrow night Lauren Meadows will be hosting with our team, including Rob and the guys. And he always has good stuff for you there. And we later in the week we'll have our usual suspects, and we try to keep it real on here around here. So, all right. So I wanted to be sure and tell you about my friends in Ocala, Renstar Medical Research. Such special people, such a special company, and they do special things. They are, without a doubt, among the most dedicated fans of Florida football you would ever know. It's Joey, our son, Joey, Joe Sr., is, of course, is the co-owner, along with Mary Brantley, has a dentist practice there. It's called Marion Dental. I went to see Joey recently. I'm really proud of him. He's a really successful young businessman. And if you need dental work, I would encourage you to go see him at Marion Dental and ask for Joey Sorrentino. And down in Lady Lake as well. He's got, I think, 20 dentists there. So check him out. Meanwhile, Renstar Medical Research, what they're trying to do is help you have better health. They'd like you to take part in some of their clinical research trials, which help lead to better medications, prescriptions for you, tailor-made for you. By doing this, if you'd like to take part in some of their exercises, some of their trials, which lead to the kind of things we want for better health, you should check them out at renstar.net and see what they've got coming up. They've always got something going, like something on asthma or measles or whatever, and you can be involved. In some cases, you get paid for time and travel if you qualify. So check it out, renstar.net. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. But a good show tonight. I want to thank our guests for joining us as usual. Monday night, good show. Good thanks for our sponsors. I'm Buddy Martin. Back tomorrow night with Lauren Meadows, same time, same station. Good night.